everybody, I'm Corin from Greenwood Bonsai Studio. Last week we released our first video of a mini bonsai exhibition. It included 8 or 10 trees that I talked about. One of the trees on that video was a Siberian Elm of mine, this tree that I've got with me today, and we had a lot of requests for more information about that tree from you, so we thought we'd do a little video to show you the timeline and the evolution of this tree from when I started styling it to what it is today. I purchased this tree about 18 years ago. It was grown from a very small young cutting, and the gentleman that grew it had grown it in a polythene tunnel in the UK, but he planted it in the ground, because planted in the ground you get much faster rate of growth, and with it being in a polythene tunnel it kept quite warm and humid. It was a very good fast growing environment. The aim at that early stage wasn't to make a bonsai, it was just to get a heavy trunk tree. And the gentleman that I purchased it from had grown it in the ground for about 6 or 7 years. It had grown up to the height of the polythene tunnel, it had started to touch the inside of the polythene tunnel, and it potentially was 8 foot tall, maybe 12 foot wide. And after those few years it was then cut down initially to a much lower tree, about 9 or 10 inch tall. It was then grown for a few more years and then cut back again and then done again and again. So when I purchased it, it was about maybe 15-year-old or so, and it was just a stump. And there's a photograph here of what it was like when I first purchased it. This first photograph is in February time or early March, and it was just a stump with big heavy wounds and cuts on it. From that first initial stage, I've trimmed back a lot of the heaviness of the thick shoots that had been trimmed in the ground, and then I've widened and shaped the branches. I've basically cut it back to a trunk line. I've carved some sections to make them look more natural, and I've widened and shaped the branches to get just the basic shape of a bonsai. It's potted into just a brown oval bonsai pot, a training pot, and you can see it's also got quite a lot of fertiliser on the soil surface. And at this stage of development it wasn't even bonsai fertiliser we were using, we're just using a generic pelleted garden fertiliser to get a lot of growth on the tree. So the next few weeks it grew quite well with the fertiliser. I watered it a lot, and this photograph you can see it with its extension growth put on, and we started off in February. This is about June time, and then this next photograph, this was 10 minutes later. This was after it had just had a bit of a haircut. I just gave it a trim with some scissors to trim it back again. Following on later that year it looked like this, and this photograph was taken about end of September time. So from this photograph back to the first one that we showed you was still only about 6 months time. So the difference from that first photograph to this is quite remarkable, I think. Then some photographs for the next few years. A couple of years further on, you can see it in this photograph here, and it started to get a bit twiggier and a slightly more rounded apex on it. And then in winter you can see the twigs just starting to develop, a nice character in the bark. Then as it progresses, the next one is the following summer. Again, a few more twigs, a bit more leaf cover, starting to develop the canopy of the tree. And this was the following year. I thinned out a few of the branches to get a bit more definition, so it didn't look too much like a sort of green mushroom, to try and get a bit of space between the few of the major branches of the tree. And this was it the following winter. A little bit of wire to rectify a few of the branches that it's putting out, but you can see, particularly with these winter image photographs, it gets twiggier, we're getting better ramification on the tree, it's looking like a more mature tree in nature. And then a couple of years after that, one of our customers gave me this pot. I was very grateful for that. It's a Japanese tokoname pot, beautiful grey clay, and it suits the tree so well. I feel this tree in winter, it has a very ghost-like image with the pale bark. It's all about tones of grey, and the tones in the pot pick up the tones in the bark really nicely in my view. This photograph was a very early spring. This next photograph was a couple of years later. You know, the ramification on the twigs. When you're developing trees like this, it can't be rushed. People often say, how do I get my tree twiggier? There's not a fast solution to it, it's just time. And that's why when you see a tree has developed at this, it's quite evident to the viewer that somebody spent a lot of time, effort and skill to achieve this image that we're looking at. During the summer months, I don't normally display it in the summer months, but here it is on a shot in summer in full leaf. In winter again, when it goes to a show, this tree has been displayed at several bonsai shows throughout Europe, and this is a handmade oak bonsai table that we had designed and made to suit the tree when it is displayed at exhibition. This particular photograph was at an exhibition in the UK. This was early spring, so this was like mid-April time, just put on the spring growth, displayed with a nice covering of green moss for the exhibition. And finally, just take you back to remind you what we started with, back to the original photograph of the raw material as I purchased it. And these images, these photographs, span about an 8-year period. Yeah? The tree now is about 12 years into this development as it is here in front of me now. But it shows what can be achieved with a raw piece of material. And a lot of people, I show them this tree as it started, and they say, oh, I dig stuff up like that out of my garden and I throw it away. It's just a stump. How can you see a bonsai within it? But with help and guidance from myself or other bonsai professionals, any amateur bonsai hobbyist can have, if you can find material, stumpy material, deciduous trees that can be worked on over a course of years to get a much more developed bonsai that you can enjoy for years to come. Thank you very much.